Hi, my name's Fatemeh. I'm running to be the next VP Student Support. I'm currently on the council as Mental Health Equality Officer, and I've been on the council for 2 years before that as General Representative.
Okay. You're currently serving as Mental Health Equality Officer on the SRC. What do you feel you've achieved in this role?
So I think probably the main thing that I've achieved is actually to see the start of the Mental Health Action Plan group come along. I think there was a lot of, I feel like, hazy plans regarding what was actually going to happen with the group. But luckily we managed to get onto the first meeting and to get a kind of general overview of where the university is at in terms of mental health kind of support and provision. And also I think my second achievement that's kind of in the goings, if you like, is I'm trying to set up an online platform for mental health and wellbeing called Look After Yourself, which comes across from the cross-campus initiative that's been going on for a few years now. So that's kind of pulling along everything together to give kind of a student-facing platform that's easy to access for students.
Okay, were you able to have much of an impact on the Mental Health Action Plan that was being developed? Or is it just now that you're starting to become more involved with your Look After Yourself initiative?
So Lauren, prior to myself, is the current VP Student Support, and obviously the VP Student Supports before that have made most of an impact on that one. I have to say I wasn't really involved when I came into the role, but obviously when I found out that there was such a thing, I met up with David Duncan straight away and I said, well listen, these are my plans and I hear these are your plans, how can we work together?
Okay. And you want to talk a bit more about your Look After Yourself initiative? What does that involve?
Yeah, so we kind of came to the conclusion after looking at alongside a lot of support services that there was a lot of great stuff going on. A lot of societies on campus are there to kind of provide mental health awareness and things like that, but there was nothing really roped in, easy to access, so you could be looking online for ages to find support services. So we thought that it would be a great idea to bring everything together in order to be easier to signpost, essentially. So we're looking to include blog posts that people have written about their own experience, and what kind of tips and tricks that they've kind of come across whilst dealing with mental health issues on campus, and also like events and groups that are available within and out with university.
Okay, you're currently Mental Health Equality Officer, but the remit of VP student support is a lot wider than mental health. What experience do you have with people with chronic illness, for example, or carers, parents who are students, or are physically disabled or have learning difficulties? What experience do you have with other people who have issues beyond mental health?
So I was actually part of my mental health role, although like you said, there's so much more to that. I was actually on the disability equality group, and I suppose within my remit that wasn't 100%, but through that I got to see quite a number of the issues that that were cropping up for students that not only have mental health issues but also accessibility issues on campus. And through that we discussed a lot about the dyslexia screening tool, etc. And also, as you know, Lauren was working on the student carers policy, and I've looked that up and I've seen that it's actually developed quite a bit into a totally established policy at the moment. So I suppose most of my kind of experience based on other welfare issues has been working alongside the other welfare officers and helping them out with their kind of campaigns, including the International Week and then the upcoming Women's International Week as well. So, yeah.
So do you have any plans for these groups if you were to win the position?
So obviously, if I do get the position, I do have a lot of impact on all of these groups. So I think part of that is working with the welfare positions that are coming in to see what their plans are, and then how we can obviously execute it together. So obviously, as a overlooking position, I might not know all the concerns that these different welfare groups have. So I think there's a lot about giving the ownership to the other people that are elected on council to tell me what they want to take forward. But in terms of what I have got on the manifesto is I'm trying to fight for the places that have been promised by the university. So for example, like breastfeeding facilities, reflective spaces, gender neutral facilities as well. So all of these are things that the university have promised, but we don't know whether they're actually going to follow through with those. So that again is something else. And also the sexual violence prevention training is another really big one that I haven't had much of an input in, but I'd like to see that go forward to reach more students.
How you said you want the sexual violence prevention training and the suicide prevention training to have an even bigger reach in your manifesto. How would you go about doing that? Because sometimes SRC reach out initiatives don't always work so well. How would you do it differently from how it's been done in the past and get more people involved with these initiatives?
So I'm actually a current trainer for the Mind Your Mate suicide prevention training, and I think the biggest issue that we've come across in terms of outreach is that actually we don't have enough resources to roll out as many sessions as we would like. Every single session we've had has been fully booked out, and that's including for staff and both kind of students with their open sessions. So we're actually in the process of running for another round of funding from the lottery fund in order to be able to bring across more trainers. Because at the moment we only have 3 staff and student trainers, and I think it's quite difficult to say that we'll be able to train as many people as we want to with that limited number. So hopefully if that training does go through, then we can push that forward. And in terms of the sexual violence prevention training, there's actually somebody in the SRC working that's pushing that forward, and as far as I know, that's got quite a good reach. I think it's more about just holding regular open sessions, which is something that I think we've started to do.
So what you would want is just to hold them a bit more regularly than you have been, rather than just kind of one-off events.
Yeah, because I think it's important to target specific groups of students, which is how we've targeted these so far. So first we opened it to council, then to clubs and societies and clubs from GUSA as well, and now we're starting to do open sessions, so I think that's how the word's getting out.
Okay. In your manifesto, you say you intend to lobby the student club with the GP practices alongside CAPS in order to develop a clear pathway for students using both the University Counselling and NHS mental health services. How do you intend to go about doing this? Have you discussed it with the joint strategy group responsible for the liaison with NHS practices?
So actually this has been something that's come across from the Mental Health Action Plan. So I've actually spoken to Phil, who's the head of CAPS, and he's kind of, I feel like, acknowledged that there's an issue and that sometimes students will go to their GP to say, listen, I'm having mental health issues, or they're maybe referred on by a family or friend. And the problem then occurs is that as soon as the GP will find out that there are counselling services at university, they'll just be like, well, go see your counselling service. And obviously from another side you could look at it and say, well, CAPS doesn't have, if you like, the full remit to deal with every single student. There are some specialist issues that CAPS is just not, frankly, qualified in order to deal with them, and they already know that, and they're trying to create that kind of engagement with GPs. I think the biggest issue is how to reach out to those GPs. And I've been thinking a lot. I think the first step would be in order to sit alongside CAPS and say, well, which one are the GP practices that are causing these particular issues? Where are you seeing these bounce backs? Where are you seeing that students are falling through the loop? And then it's then, I think, formulating a good statement in conjunction with CAPS to send out to those GP practices. And I can tell you for a certain fact is that the GP practice on campus is obviously one of them that is causing issues. So I think it's about sitting down collaboratively thinking and creating a statement to then send forward.
So what you want to do is, rather than having students just being sent to the counselling service, if it is like a more specialised problem, you would send them to the NHS. You would want them to be dealt with through the NHS rather than through. Would you like them to be dealt with both in conjunction at the same time, like they have some counselling from the NHS and from the university?
I think that's where the line is not clear cut, because we don't know like at what point because obviously the counselling service say that there are only a certain number of issues we can deal with and other things need to be referred, but it's not very clear how they're being referred to or what conditions can be and what conditions can't be. So I think it's about clarifying that first before we lobby.
Because just thinking about it a wee bit, I was wondering if this maybe you could get into a bit of an issue with patient confidentiality if maybe the student had told something to the University Counselling Services they were then going to pass on to the NHS. Do you think that could pose an issue?
I think obviously it would have to be dealt with total confidentiality, so it wouldn't be that we're looking for specifics of cases, we're just looking for what GP practices are people complaining about, if you like.
Just to have a more general plan. Okay, that makes sense. So you mentioned specifically in your manifesto that you want to push for the prioritisation of free sanitary products across the university as the SNP announced will happen in August 2018. Since this will be happening anyway, and this is a service currently available at the GUU and the QMU, I just wanted to know why you particularly wanted to highlight it in your manifesto. Do you have a particular vision or plan as this could, how this could be implemented more widely? Like, what would you like to do differently?
I think definitely it's excellent that the unions have already bought in and brought in their own suppliers. But actually what the Scottish Government is trying to do is to get every single university, college and school to commit to providing it campus-wide. So that's including all female and gender neutral toilets. So I think this would be extending the remit of what the unions are providing thus far. Because I think it's really important that the university and in particular the SRC and the unions and GUSA have bought into the whole kind of promoting safe sex and having free condoms, but I think we can potentially broaden that horizon and add sanitary products to that, because I think it's just as important that students don't miss out on classes and education because of the inability to afford sanitary products.
Okay. You mentioned that you like the idea of the university's peer support initiative acting as a potential follow-up support system for students entering university from the pre-existing widening access initiatives. Why do you think this is important?
So I think having been a student who's come into university through a widening access initiative, I think it's very important to have sustained, if you like, support, because obviously there's lots to kind of bring down grades for you or to kind of be a little less strict on the requirements in order to get you to university. But once you get there, it's almost as if you're left to figure everything out by yourself. And I've had a few kind of ad hoc sessions where we've had a kind of widening access recap, if you like, where staff and students would sit together and discuss you know, their own personal stories, and although it was nice, it was not structured, so it's not guaranteed that every student that comes through these programs will get that kind of benefit. And I think because we're trying to push for peer support to be rolled out campus-wide, I think it fits in really nicely to have that kind of peer element to it. And we know that peer, you know, initiatives work really well, and in the 4 schools that we have it so far, medicine, vet, business, and social and political sciences, they're kind of building up, but how do we ensure that more and more students can get access to that? So that's definitely something that the university's committed in funding, and they're really happy about that. So I think, you know, these 2 things can fit in.
You think it'd be able to go ahead with using it for widening access initiatives as well?
Yeah.
Okay. You also said you want to ensure there's a more robust accountability process for all council members. What do you think this should entail? Would it entail recall procedures?
You know, I think having been on council for a number of years, I've always noticed that it can be very simple just to float through council, not having actually achieved what you know, campaigned about and what was in your manifesto. And I think that's, you know, partly got to do with the fact that although you know, we're all trustees of the organisation when you're on council, and you're accountable to each other, you're not technically accountable to the rest of the student population, or that's how it seems on the kind of bigger scale. So for example, you'll have council reports at every council, and you'll say, you know, I did this, but there's no actual follow-up and there's no questioning afterwards. And obviously this would, you know, have to be discussed with the rest of whoever's elected as exec. But I think something that I've seen from other organisations is that they'll have an annual kind of end of the year accountability session open to all other students to attend. And obviously I don't know whether that is the perfect solution, or if there are other ones, but it could potentially be one solution. That, you know, before the kind of election period starts for the next incoming council, that you have a kind of round up accountability of students, and that could be anybody, you know, from the student population that has, you know, never engaged with the SRC perhaps, that can come in and question those that promise to represent them. And I think it's a method of, you know, helping students that have voted to see where their vote went, and how they can vote better if they feel like we need to kind of improve on that.
Okay, and what would you do differently from your predecessor in the role?
I think that's a really hard one, because Lauren's done an excellent job and she has God knows how much of experience on her plate. I think that I would continue definitely a lot of the projects that Lauren's you know, done, because whilst she's been doing them, it's almost kind of instilled a passion within me to keep those going, which I've mentioned on my manifesto. I think perhaps I would try to create more of a system of where welfare officers sit within the remit, because obviously mental health is a really hot topic, and being on council this year, there's often been mental health related stuff that I haven't maybe heard about, and that's just because it's just so vast. But I think if I was to come into the, you know, position, I would try and see if I can create a regular check-up system where anything related to a particular welfare, you know, a remit of a particular welfare officer would go straight to them, and that we can work together. So I think that's how you find out about these issues, is not just by yourself as a single position, but everybody out there that's supposed to be doing welfare work. So yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for coming in.
Perfect.